Today on Upfront, the Trump Show. Is it helping or hurting Republicans? It's my question for Republican National Committee Chair Reince Priebus. He leads among primary voters in Wisconsin, but Governor Walker's poll numbers are sagging here. Marquette Law School poll director Charles Franklin joins me with the latest findings. And a new political party in Wisconsin, the goals of the Working Families Party. How are they different from Democrats?
Covering the issues important to Wisconsin. This is Up Front with Mike Goucher.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Up Front. It's a run-up to an election year unlike anything we've ever seen before. In a Republican field of candidates that's nearly bursting at the seams, the current leader is a billionaire businessman and former reality TV star. The first GOP debate drew a huge rating, the largest ever for a presidential primary debate, and another is coming up next month. So what do we make of what we've seen so far? We're asking Republican National Committee Chairman, Wisconsin's own Reince Priebus, who joins us now here in the studio. It's good to have you back in Milwaukee.
I'm excited to be home. Thank you, Mike.
So what do you make of this Donald Trump phenomenon?
Well, you know, look, I think it brings a lot of interest to the Republican field. I think it's a net positive for everybody, and I also think it's an indicator that there's a lot of folks out there that are just sick and tired of Washington. I think Donald Trump's tapped into that. And if you're right, you look at the first debate, we had, I think it was 5 or 6 times more viewers in the beginning of August than any debate in the history of either party. Now, the key for us, of course, now is tap into something that allows us to cross into a cultural barrier, which has been hard for our party, but then get into some containment. And containment seems to be the key word for me.
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, allow for some elbows, allow for some jabs, but make sure that we don't get a primary that starts living in the mud. And I don't think you see that right now, but I think it's important for us not to get there. And I'm going to do what I can to make sure it doesn't happen.
So I hear you saying that you think the Trump show, as some people refer to it, is a good thing, generally speaking.
I think it's a positive for our party. I mean, when you have 30 million people watching, not to mention the fact that we've got 16 other incredible candidates out there, I think we're showing America that we're the young, diverse party offering a whole slew of options for people, and that's a good thing. I mean, if you look at what's happening on the Democrat side, look at this coronation. A coronation of what? A person that's being investigated by the FBI, a person who is now being beat by a socialist in New Hampshire, and actually a person that is opening the door to a guy like Joe Biden, who, by the way, is far more likable than Hillary Clinton, and I think likability is the #1 thing on the ballot in the presidential election.
Ben Carson said he's not convinced Hillary Clinton, at the end of the day, will be the Democratic nominee. Do you share any of that perspective?
I share it. I do.
You do?
And in fact, if you, absolutely.
Well, why do you say that?
I think that right now, at best, she's a coin flip for the Democrat nomination. So, well, look, I mean, look at the numbers. I mean, the numbers are completely upside down. She's, like I said before, she's losing to Bernie Sanders already in New Hampshire. I mean, she's supposed to be the person that was going to be handed the keys to the Democrat nomination. She is all over the place on these emails. She's clearly committed a violation of at least State Department policy, if not federal law. And now everyone around her is getting investigated. People don't trust her. People don't like her. Even women who are polled say, I would love to see a woman president, but not that woman. And that's what she's facing.
Let me go back and ask one more Trump question.
Sure.
And that is, so you would be comfortable with him if he were, at the end of this process, to become the nominee? You would be comfortable with that? You think he's a Republican?
Look, he says he's a Republican. I take him at his word. I take him at his word. And so he's competing for the Republican nomination. He says he wants to be a Republican nominee. He has been a very generous, by the way, person to our party. He and his family have supported the Republican National Committee every single time I've come to him. Every time that he's been asked, he's given. He's come to our retreats. I have no reason not to believe that he's a Republican. But here's the thing. I don't get to make that decision. Washington doesn't make the decision. The people in the states decide, and I will tell you that I pledge my support to whomever the Republican nominee is going to be. And what I'm going to do is work like a dog so that we have a massive infrastructure on the ground, a data operation that's better than we've ever seen, so that whoever the nominee is, any one of those 17, they're going to tap into something that we've never built before, and it's going to be incredible, and it's going to be great for our party and our country.
You and I have talked in the past about your desire to see the party broaden its reach, to win over Hispanic voters,
Sure.
for instance. Are you concerned that any of the language that's being used in the current political discussion about immigration is going to seriously damage your party's ability to attract Hispanic voters?
Well, I do think that tone matters. You know, sort of like our mothers have told us, it's not necessarily what you say, but it's how you say it. I think that having a debate over birthright citizenship is a constitutional debate that scholars have quite frequently, and you can have that debate. But how you talk about it is certainly important. But, you know, I think our fundamental issue that we've resolved at the RNC is that we've got to be a year-round party in Hispanic and Black and Asian communities all the time. That, in other words, you can't sell a party by showing up 3 months ahead of time in Cleveland. You have to be there all the time. So my fear has been with our party that we've become a midterm party that doesn't lose and a presidential party that doesn't win. And I believe that constant engagement in the community, getting to know people, and talking about things like school choice and SBA loans for small businesses, and being a year-round party will get us to a place of competency when it comes to competing in Black and Hispanic communities. And that's what we've done so differently today than where we were 4 years ago.
A few Wisconsin questions. How's your friend, Scott Walker, doing in this race?
So I think Scott's doing well. I mean, I think all these candidates are doing well.
He's in some kind of jeopardy right now. A lot of the narrative is that he's struggling.
No. I don't see that at all. I actually think it's anyone's ball game. It's anyone's ball game. And I think that all these candidates are doing what they need to do in the middle of August, in the middle of summer, to get to know voters. Because let's face it, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina have a disproportionate say in who our nominee is going to be. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, it just is a fact. And I think from there you have a March 1st Super Tuesday, a March 15th winner-take-all Super Tuesday. Two-thirds about of all the delegates are going to be distributed by the 3rd or 4th week of March. And so, you know, to sort of analyze where we are today, I think is a little bit premature. Certainly he's in the game, and so are all the rest of the candidates.
Speaking of all the rest of the candidates, some grumbling this past week from the campaigns of some of the candidates who were in the first Fox debate.
Yeah, I hear that. That's just, I hope you read the quote from our RNC shop, which basically is pretty bold. I mean, you don't see the RNC coming out and saying the people that are whining and complaining don't know what they're talking about, and it's a bunch of bunk. I mean, we haven't had any complaints as far as that issue with the attendance at the first debate. It was a matter of getting people in and out of the arena in time when you have a 5,000 seated operation. So that's not going to happen, I don't think, again in a later debate, because we don't have 5,000 seated arenas anymore to contend with. So I think it's much to do about nothing.
And speaking of venues, do you have anything further to offer us in terms of the Wisconsin debate, which is supposed to happen in November? That's the talk right now. Anything that you can share with us about where that might be and more details?
Yeah, unfortunately I don't. But it is a good thing for the state of Wisconsin. We're not doing a 23 debate circus. It's one debate every month through the end of the year, and the November debate is the Wisconsin debate, and this will be back to being the epicenter again of the Republican Party.
All right, Reince Priebus is the Republican Party chairman, National Committee chairman. It's good to have you back in the studio. Thanks very much for being with us. You bet. Our editorial partner, WisPolitics.com, has a current roundup of national coverage of Governor Walker's campaign. You'll find it on the Walker Watch blog at WisPolitics.com. Later, a new political party in Wisconsin. Why is that necessary, and how will organizers get it off the ground? But first, new numbers in Wisconsin's race for U.S. Senate. Why the race between Republican Ron Johnson and Democrat Russ Feingold appears to be tightening. That's when Up Front continues.
Up Front with Mike Goucher, brought to you by the American Transmission Company and the Wisconsin Corn Growers Association.